Hey guys, BwPA bringing another Mythic Plus dungeon walkthrough and guide video. Today we're taking a look at a plus 28 Throne of the Tides Tyrannical. This is currently the best dungeon I've done so far when you look at the kind of world ranking. Tyrannical Throne of Tides is tricky. The bosses need to be dealt with in a very specific manner. We'll talk about that during the video. But anyway, that's why I want to walk you through this one. Recently, I've been pushing a bit higher. I got I got a 29 key done, that kind of thing. Just wanted to, get them out there so you can have a look at them. Talk about, what actually changes when you go up in the key level. What are the different considerations? How do you need to play differently? That kind of thing. Just to start this first pull, right? This is going to be a big one where we use all our cooldowns. There's not that much to care about here. Obviously, you have the Sentinel. If he targets you with Crushing Death, you want to AMS that, because that then completely immunes the application. It's not that bad if it actually goes on you, because you can use Death Track and things to heal up. It's just a very good tip. Otherwise, in this pool, make sure that I use my defenses a bit aggressively, especially if you have the mob start casting, right? This is a dungeon where triple melee kind of is a good idea, specifically due to the fact that there are so many casters and they're just chain casting, and you need to be careful about that. So that is why we're running without a Bloodlust. But this is just a random pug. I just got invited, no idea why, but so you didn't pay too much attention to the comp, that kind of thing. Anyway, for the gear, you can see I'm running an absolute ton of versatility. This is a choice that can be made high up in keys. Generally, it's not needed. But me going full versatility is like a 1 to 2% DPS loss, that kind of order of magnitude. And it means that some one-shots just end up not being very dangerous. Same thing, you can see my defensive talents. I'm running Will of Necropolis. Don't think it is technically required here. But again, it gives you quite a lot more defensive power. So if things go a bit wrong, if a couple of casts go through, it just means that you survive it much better. I don't have a log on this, but we can have a look during the key, see if it actually saved me any time. Might not have to done, but there's also a question about like how many times does Will of Necropolis need to save you in a given key for it to be worthwhile to pick up? Because you lose like 1% DPS, it's not a big thing. So the question is like if it saves you one time in every other key, where does the limit go? I don't know. Me personally, I just always run it because you don't tend to lose out on a key due to the fact that you're doing 1% less DPS, but you do lose out a key if you die, that kind of thing. Anyway, for the gear, as I said, lots of versatility, double passive trinket. I've changed this recently. I'm now running Mirror due to the fact that Mirror helps a lot with your single target, which is something you will see in this key that I'm not the best at doing single target. If you have Mirror, you time that with army, it just ends up being a big addition, right? Furthermore, when you look at the specific talent, I am running Pestilence, and that's something I've actually stopped doing recently. I essentially just want to try it out, see how it worked. How it essentially functions is that you hit 20 Festamite stacks quite a lot quicker, especially in big pools like this. You see, I ended up 20 immediately, pretty much. However, it does mean that on a longer pool, you lack that Dark Transformation extension. Like in a big key, in a long pool, you might end up having 2 20-stack Festamite windows back to back due to the fact that you're just spending Epidemic so much, Dark Transformation is up forever. Once your first Festamite drop, you end up having lots of wounds and everything, and you can start a new one and then just keep hammering away. So I've gone back to not running Pestilence now, but in this case, I did do that. This pool is very similar to the first one, just group everything up, AoE them down, make sure we leverage our kicks and whatnot where relevant. You can see here I have Army ready, I have Unholy Assault ready. I'm quite not 100% sure how I will use these, but we'll see. The tank pools, we LOS, make sure that all the mobs actually end up coming along here. I'm going to send my army here, because I know that, Unholy Assault, it's fine to use army like 10 seconds before Unholy Assault and still get full overlap, that kind of thing. So that's why I, decided to send it. Oh well. Other than that, I'm going to make sure I keep an eye out on one of these witches. Lightning Bolt is super dangerous. Or super, you can see it hit me there and he brought me to like 40% HP, which is not too bad. It's obviously tyrannical, so not that big of a deal. It's still, I tend to focus the witches, make sure I have one which I, get the value for my interrupt on, and then just go with that. This area of the key is kind of like, how much can you safely pull without wiping? Because quite a lot of these pulls end up being quite dangerous. This one here with the little dragons and with the Ravager, super dangerous. You get targeted, they apply a dot on you, and you time that with a barrage, and it can easily kill you very quickly. So the idea is go on, try and kite him a little bit. I probably shouldn't have used my formation limb there, but very good to have a ring there, make sure everything's away, and then we are safe to go. I wouldn't probably not have done that on a fortified, but on a tyrannical, even though it's 28, we'll see we're not really in danger of anything. I think this key, I'm actually running, I am. So I'm actually sacrificing 2 points in Holy Bond so I can pick up, I'll have to check when I'm out of combat to make sure I have a look at exactly what my talents are. But one thing you can do is actually you can sacrifice 2 points in Holy Bond to pick up both AMZ and improved Death Strike. Again, it's a loss in DPS, but improved Death Strike can be really nice if you end up going low and you need to heal yourself back up. Specifically here, if you do get targeted and you don't have AMS for the drowning spell, having improved Death Strike helps a lot with healing you back up. You can see a very efficient pulling here from the tank. We essentially get the big guy down to like 40%, then pull the pack of casters. Saves quite a lot of time. You can see, we haven't used the Bloodlust either. I'm not sure if they forgot it or why. We'll see, because the timing usually work out so that you Bloodlust the second boss. But like if you have drums, it doesn't really matter that much. You can see there, that's some Festmark gameplay for you. So essentially, I wait until my Festmark window runs out, and then I press Apocalypse so I can start a new one fresh with like 4 stacks. Just a bit of optimization means that you get a bit more overall DPS from more strength. See a nice spell reflect there from the warrior. The sentinels will absolutely murder themselves with the dot coming from that drowning effect. Anyway, that's all trash. It's all about interrupts, managing those pulls in a way where you don't randomly start dying. This boss here is the first tricky one. So he will deal an absolute ton of damage with his cast of Focus Tempest. So now, when you play this, it is incredibly important that you position yourself correctly. As you can see, we stand with a tank right in the middle of the boss, and then the other of us, we form this very nice square around the boss, so you can see like a cross. So how it works is that it targets a random player, hits that guy, and then it bounces to the nearest player. So if you stand in this formation, everyone has its closest player being the tank. So it randomly picks someone, jumps to the tank. Pick someone else, jumps to the tank, right? This means that you will never get hit twice. And as long as you survive this initial hit, you are completely fine. And for me, you can see it is no problem at all surviving that hit. I go down to 25% health, right? No problem at all, right? That's something to consider. The higher you go with this key, that starts to one-shot, right? I'm obviously incredibly tanky, so I don't actually need to use anything for it. But when you go like 29s, I assume 2030s, it starts being a real issue that you need to have this kind of default tankiness so you don't get one-shot. But that's also when you start considering picking up that vial that reduces damage by 60%, so against one-shots. So it's a bit of a consideration. By the way, if you're pushing high, you want to know, do I survive or not? You can go to the website called Not Even Close. And that actually allows you to check, right? Given my versatility, given my talents, given all of these things, do I survive this? And then you can easily say yes or no. And that allows you to plan in advance, figure out, okay, how much versatility do I actually need in this dungeon? That kind of thing. Because you can see, I'm not committing AMS to this, because I want to have AMS if I do get targeted by the Shock Blast. Because that will, most likely, I haven't checked, one-shot me if I get it. So I need to have something against it. Okay. Another thing, I didn't talk about it, but intermission, it is incredibly important to actually not panic, right? There's so much going on. Everything is kind of like, spawning. There's lots of geezers on the ground, that kind of thing. Just walk away. Do not stand close to the big guy. You don't want him to melee you. Wait until the tank has started getting aggro. Group everything up. Make sure to get your pet to attack the right target. It will get stuck on the boss if you do not issue a pet attack command. And then just pop your CDs, defile, and start cleaving. And obviously defile completely, almost completely blocks out the geezers. So another thing to consider. But just, keep your eye, and it's usually fine. You can see those clearly. Just sometimes it doesn't quite work. And again, go back, do the formation, right? Where are the other guys staying? I think I did commit AMS there because we didn't have quite the right formation. So I was a bit afraid of it going wrong. But again, we'll do this nicely. We had one guy dying. I'm not too sure what he died to, actually. But, no problem there. It's quite nice. As I said, I have AMZ, which means I actually have an additional personal. If I don't have AMS ready, I don't have Lichborn, I don't have IBF, I can always AMZ myself, and that would allow me to survive, for instance, the shock blast. But yeah. Nice and clean. I think it makes sense now that we saved loss for this, because this is probably the most difficult boss. So, next one. Another boss which I think this is a bit easier. It doesn't have the same kind of one-shots. By far the most dangerous thing here is the knockback followed by dot, and we can AMS immune every second one. We're going to do an efficient pull here, pick up those 3 casters, pull them with the boss. Means that we essentially save that time. I commit all my cooldowns here, very nicely timed here that they came up. But yeah, we're going to stack as much as possible, and then I'm going to almost personally deal with the adds spawn. You need to know the ones you need to knock back. Bottom Fisher, stack, spawn them at the same spot. He has his Festering Shock back coming in 3 seconds. I'm going to hopefully commit my AMS for this. Yeah, there we go. AMS, you can see immune dot, no problem there. Make sure we actually keep interrupting these. It's not that bad on Fortified, right? But on Tyrannical, it's not that bad on Tyrannical, but Fortified, I can definitely wipe you quickly if you start not being able to interrupt them. Okay, as saw there, you dot up the adds, you press epidemic, that will knock them back, and that's essentially all you need to deal with those. So the other DPS, they can focus on hitting the boss, and I will just sort that out. For the West wave, Festering Wave, AMZ is a great one here, both for the initial damage, but also the dot that comes afterwards. But the healer here is just not having any trouble at all keeping this up, so we're all good with that. I like to, right, he's going to awaken the use, and we can see we have 2 groups. It's kind of like this idea to try and group them up. So what I like to do is I dot up the first group, hit an epidemic, and I dot up the next one. And that means that they kind of get a bit clumped up, which means that any additional outbreaks I need to do would only require a single cast compared to multiple. That's the second shockwave. Again, AMS for that one. Having a look at my Festomite, make sure I use Apocalypse to time that well, and then it's just going to be the same thing. Keep fighting this boss. My DPS is quite heavily inflated here, so the blobs actually take damage when they are not visible. So I have my dots up, and they will keep ticking and dealing lots of damage to them. So even though it looks like I have a lot of DPS there, it's primarily the blobs. Try to make sure here that I actually have some Runic Power saved up, so I can go in and then immediately start spamming Epidemic. And you can see, because I grouped up that left group of ads, it means I just need a single outbreak this time around to dot them all up. Alright, keep going. So, yeah, as I said, my single target isn't great here, especially without, what's it called, Bloodlust. But if I had actually used the mirror, which I have another versatility kind of gear set, which has mirror and has mastery as my top stat, so that's just something that will do quite a lot more damage and still have that defensive benefit we're looking for. All right, this UV set is a bit iffy. We have the set there to the left. That could be a bit of an issue. But, you know, I dot everything up and then just go for that epidemic spam. When it comes to shockwaves, I try and have a cooldown for each. So I probably in this scenario should have had Lichborn, for instance. But it's generally fine. Like, you are tanky as DK. Worst case scenario, you would just Death Strike and you're fine. Like, you would never die to that. That's just how it is. You can see I'm completely ignoring the incorporals. That's because I am unholy. So even though Control Undead does work when it comes to CCing these guys, it misses my pet, which is a big DPS count rate. So just unfortunately take the L and you know, let the other ones deal with it. I wonder if I die here. No, I'm being safe. We're very good on time here, I think. No major mishaps. We had that one death of the warrior, but obviously rest him up quite quickly. And now we're going to deal with this next region. So when you go downstairs, go left. That's a pretty easy one. There's not that much to be bothered with. It's quite a lot of big damage intake. You have these little mobs that continuously deal AoE damage. You have caster mobs that you drop, that kind of thing. But there's not that much we can do here specifically to deal with it. Just make sure we interrupt the mind phase and then, yeah. There you go. Got a bit of a head start there, getting pushed in. These can be a bit annoying when they, you have to run out and then you're out of your defile kind of thing. But it's good for us. We can just spam Epidemic and then it's kind of fine. All right, Mind Flay is by far the most important thing to care about here. Also, these lines can be very tricky to see, especially if you're in an incline, as we're playing out here. So just make sure we keep our eyes open, interrupt the Mind Flays, dodge the lines, and then we're going to kind of chain pull this. This is going to end up being one of those pulls where I don't really get a reset, so it's all about just continuing doing our AoE rotation. At some point, that does mean you do Festering Strike, but you can see I don't do that very often. Essentially, it's generally when I know, okay, I'm going to set up a new Festamite window here. So I'm going to use some Festamites and some Festering Strikes, spread out those wounds so that when I do start hitting my Skirt Strike, I get lots of stacks. You can see I did that here. I got 14 on a relatively small pool. That tends to be the scenario where essentially I know my CDs are coming up in like 5 seconds. Then I know that, okay, well, I can spend some time now, hit some Festive Strikes, and then that's going to make my burst window even stronger. That's like the one scenario. And it tends to happen in these kind of long pulls. You can see here I have my cooldowns coming up soon. So I start by tabbing some Festive Strikes. Exactly the scenario I just discussed. And it means that when I now hit my Apocalypse, Defile, and the Lightning Skirt Strike, I go 9, 12, 14, right? I quite quickly end up at a high Festamite stack, which means that my burst window is stronger. I think that's the kind of gameplay you're looking for. Fortunately, we did get an Acropole go off there. I'm going to try my best to interrupt. I probably could have interrupted that quicker, but I, in a sense, trust that my team will sort that out. It's a big thing. All right. You can see one of the tricky scenarios where you get gripped into one of the derays on the floor. And not much of a counterplay except having AMS ready for that. But I tend to just commit to AMS when I feel like it's a good idea. You can see I have army ready now, but not an all assault. The plan here is probably to commit my 45-second CDs, but not commit my army because I do want to time my army with my all assault. Seems I forgot to have an Apocalypse here. There it is. As a general rule, like it will happen that you get desync, but saving army from Whole Assault is a maximum. Generally, like 45 seconds you need to wait. That kind of vibe, and the fact that Whole Assault gives you 20% DPS increase really helps you power up your army. Furthermore, we are doing Tyrannical. There is a boss coming up which is difficult, so it's much better for me to just save army for that. I always talk about, use your cooldowns, whatnot, but at some point you need to consider, well, I didn't need to use army for that pack, but this guy, I definitely need to use army. Here's another tricky boss, and one of the reasons why we do want to use high versatility. That flame shock is nasty. It's random. It doesn't hit the same guy twice, but when it does hit, it's almost a one shot, and then it starts immediately ticking. So just a good idea to be tanky for it. Good idea, like Death Strike is really powerful against it. But as a general rule, you need to be tanky to start with just to survive that initial hit. Let's see. You can see me using my legendary at the opener. It's very similar to like the raid opener, where you use your legendary after you apply the dot on the boss. So I use on all assaults, and that gets applied, and then I can use my legendary after that point. It's slightly different. I haven't talked about this much, but like the single target burst opener is slightly different compared to raid. Essentially, Death Call is just lower priority. We don't have Gargle being fueled by Death Call, which means that actually stacking Festamite becomes a bigger deal. So in the first couple of the first Festamite window, I tend to essentially just ignore my runic power to some degree, right? It's a bit bigger effect with Pestilence because you don't need to consider the fact that you get Dark Transformation extension. But there's definitely a thing where getting those Festamite stacks early and in a good way is important. You can see there I'm quite tanky. The initial tick took me like 40% HP. So technically I probably wouldn't have needed Will of the Necropolis for this dungeon either. But as I said before, someone goes down. The thing is that if you assume that you get the tick, you almost immediately get dispelled, it's completely fine. But you can see there, I actually dropped quite low on the second one. Hits a Death Strike to get me back up. But I'm pretty sure I get some value on Will of the Necropolis. I need to actually have a look at my logs and see, to convince myself whether or not it's useful. Here's a mistake for me. I send my pet there, and they're like, no. The boss transitions at 25% health. It's better to just ignore that, get into 25, and that despawns the totem. There we go. I got the new guy. For this one, first division, I just use Lichborn, completely immune to damage, no problem. I'm going to commit a, what's it called? AMZ here. He does like ticking damage to the raid. He's not that bad. You can see we're not dropping that low, but our healer is also pretty good. But it's a good opportunity to use your AMZ. Keep everyone healthy. I can't remember if I actually did it. We'll see. I think it gets dropped down here towards 10. There we go. I'm helping. Boss is dead. This is not much, so I didn't talk about it, but whenever the totem spawn, just make sure you have a pet attack, make sure your pet swap to that totem, dot it up, and then defile down and do some nice cleave as well as priority damage. That's the plan for us. But you can see here, I only did 170k, partly because my single target is pretty bad, but also because Unholy doesn't do that well in a 2-target cleave scenario. We're gonna shroud past the mobs here that come in this pack. They're quite nasty. Not that bad on Tyrannical, but on Fortify that is terrible. You don't need those though for counts, so we're just gonna use shroud and get past them. I dismiss my pet just for safety. You never know what he's doing, right? So sometimes the mobs will attack the pet. Everyone kind of panics. It's just better to dismiss it and then get it back up. All right, for this pack here. You're supposed to kill the sentry in a way where you don't kill the small blobbies. Alright, so he does the swell, which does a lot of damage, especially if you have lots of stacks from the little mobs that die. We have a monk here, and I think the monk can remove it with the what's that called? That big healing AoE. We're kind of fine. We can use AMS to ignore the dot. It's just something to be wary of so that you don't end up having too many stacks. So you're not mindlessly AoEing when it might, extend it, that kind of thing. What we're going to do here, we're going to group some of those up. I think we're going to kill them first. We have quite a lot of time, right? Almost 10 minutes on the clock. So group this up. No? Okay. All right. So pull this guy in. We got Swell. I have my AMS down so I don't get little stacks. I'm still going to be a responsible guy and single target him. But I think the healer could also dispel them. We had darkness down, so we had that as a plan as well. Anyway, you can see now we have like 18 stacks. This one is going to hurt a lot, so we're going to have to commit cooldowns. But I think that's just simply what we're going to do. So I'm going to Deathstruck there, get myself back to full HP, which isn't that much of an issue. And then he's dead. I think it's a bit of a both, you know, DPS doing it properly, but also the healer being able to manage when you get quite high stacks. All right, this pool is really dangerous. These Aqua Mages, if you don't kill them quickly enough, they end up just casting and just completely murdering you. I'm paying some attention here to my Festamite. It's about to go out, so I don't start with my Scoutstrike Cleave immediately. So I wait a little bit until I actually get a lot of stacks. And then I, you know, initiate a new one, get to 20, and just murder them. We have sufficient damage here to be able to CC them. But like if you have if you play with Raging, for instance, it can get really difficult actually managing those. But Raging Weak is just, yeah, no, annoying. Anyway, got these Tainted Sentries. I'm going to use Epidemic here. It deals more damage on 2 targets because you get the effect of double death drop. So, unfortunately, my Festamite here isn't managed very well. Used my Apocalypse towards the end of my window, but it's also nothing you should hyper focus on anyway. We just kind of, you know, cleaving them down and going to move to the boss. Now, for the boss, there's not that much to focus on. High Tyrannical, if you get targeted with the stuff that drops a blob on the ground, it's very important to move out quickly because you're going to get a hit when it actually triggers, and then it's very quickly going to hit you again because you're standing in the black puddle. So something to be aware of, make sure you move very quickly. Also, for this boss to not get out of control, you really need to be good at clearing the black goo. But that's also quite simple. 2 people get targeted. The 2 of those people, they stack up and then move together. And then also very, very, very importantly, clear everything every time. If you leave anything, it's going to keep growing. And it's quickly going to spiral out of control where you no longer have the ability to clear fully. Good opportunity to use AMS for this. You can see the first hit gives me to 40%, second one down to 20. I'm kind of chilling, but you can see we get this, we stack up, and then we move together, and we just clear everything. Simple as that. Mobs, they spawn, right? Just dot the main boss, and I will dot everything, and then just spam Epidemic, get my Defile down, and then cleave those down. Easy peasy. It's quite important to kill them in the same spot because they drop the purple goo. With AMS, you can move over and drop the goo in existing one without taking any damage. It's a good idea. Actually, don't sure does that save space or not. Anyway, you can see here we go and clear together. Very important. Keep clearing until everything is gone. If you just leave a single puddle, you're kind of doomed. Very quickly you end up in a bad space. You can see here how Claw and Shadow's Cleave works. I'm hitting the main boss, but the mobs are close enough that it will get cleaved. And we can do some nice damage to that. Alright, got the barrage. Just before it hits, start moving to the safe space, and you can see you can actually dodge that second hit, which is great. Alright, we keep clearing. When appropriate, I'm going to help the tank grip these guys up, the casters. And then dot them up and just keep cleaving. And we are doing a great job at just dealing with this. Everything dying at the same spot. We are putting our blotting brush close to that already existing one. I overlapped them, as you can see there. Means it's much easier to clear them later. You can see the warrior is doing some fun shenanigans here. So the boss does a big tank cast. What he does, he taunts the boss, runs away, and then uses Spell Reflect. It means that he does an absolute insane amount of damage by reflecting that, but it's a bit tricky because you know to tank taunt the boss, You need to be good at when you move away, that kind of thing. So I would only do it if I actually have a good idea what you're supposed to do exactly. But it does it again. 2.6 or around 2 million with the bolt. Pretty good. And I think he's avoiding being melee there because he's away from the boss. So I think that's why you can do it. It's pretty safe. Oh well. We just keep handling the boss there. Like, everyone is doing exactly what they're supposed to. And in many cases with bosses, that just ends up making bosses look very easy. Like, we're not having any issues there. Everything gets interrupted. All the blocking barrages are being placed in the right spot. Everyone's clearing as they should do. It just means that it just ends up being much simpler. Something I noticed when you go high keys, as a general rule, people have a better idea what they're supposed to do. And it just means that most dungeons actually become easier in a sense because, you know, you don't get random costs coming through. You don't have people putting the wrong stuff in the wrong spot. That kind of thing. Anyway, that's a plus 28 thrown into Tides Tyrannical. I think it was the 150th best thrown. I don't know. So quite happy about that. Anyway, leave a comment down below. Let me know what you thought about this video. Upvote, downvote. Let me know. Do you want to see more of this kind of thing? Do you like higher keys? That kind of discussion? Let me know in the comments. Anyway, thank you much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.